Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode number 241, being recorded on March 6th, 2013. I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
And I'm Morry Titleman.
We have a fifth member today. That sounds weird. We have a fifth participant in the podcast, I guess maybe is what we'll say instead. Welcome to the show, Morry. This is your first time on. If you guys aren't familiar with Morry, he has been writing on our site, writing on PCPer for a little while now, doing motherboard reviews. He's also done a lot of the cooler reviews that we've had. And by cooler, I mean the better, but also the air cooler, the water cooler, all that stuff he's covering as well. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let's talk about some things. Let me bring up the show notes here. This is important. You missed this yesterday, and I just feel the need to remind you of it. We had a game stream yesterday sponsored by AMD. We played some Tomb Raider. We had Antal from AMD on with us, and then we had Brian Horton, who is a creative art director for Crystal Dynamics, on the live stream as well. We played for, I don't know, hour and a half or so of the game, got to talk about a lot of the technology behind it. We talked a lot about TressFX, as you would imagine. Hair is the hot thing in games today. And it was actually really cool to get a developer involved, have them talk about, what, as we were playing through the first hour of the game, what their visions were for this particular part, when we were traversing a fallen tree over an opening, a crevasse, I guess we'll say. He's like, let's walk slowly across that and watch how the hair interacts with the wind, and we tried to do this and this. It was actually a really cool thing, and we gave stuff away. So if you missed out on that, that's your problem. We gave away 3 graphics cards and 3 Never Settle Reloaded bundle keys that gave you a free copy of Tomb Raider and BioShock Infinite, and then 2 more copies of Tomb Raider as well. So you totally missed out on that, and that's your fault, because we do have a schedule for everybody listening. If you want to know when the next live show is, you see this thing right here? This is a schedule. It shows upcoming events. And right now it only shows the podcast is currently running and tomorrow's Twitch. But if you check back on or about April 2nd, we're going to have a BioShock Infinite live stream as well, sponsored by AMD, which means more prizes. We're going to try to get another developer on as well and talk about cool PC gaming visual effects. I'm sure everybody on this show watched the live stream yesterday, right? So it was riveting, right?
Riveting.
So jealous of her hair.
You could have been a fill-in, Jeremy.
Oh, it renders much lacer than mine does.
Josh could use that TressFX technology.
That, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about hardware. It was a somewhat light news week, although ironically a little bit more on the storage front than we've had in a little while. That's why we're going to talk with Allyn a little bit more than normal. If you're a fan of Allyn, this is a podcast episode for you. If you're not a fan of Allyn, it'd probably be good to get out and just stop listening. You got that?
Can I go now?
Save yourself.
No, Josh, sorry, you have to stay.
Damn.
So first review, Lee Garbett posted of the Seasonic Platinum Series fanless 460-watt power supply. He just keeps pumping through these power supply reviews.
Plowing through the power supply.
I have not been drinking. Not today, not yet. Maybe after the show. So it's a fanless, as the name implies, 460 watts, and 400. I think we did a fanless 300-watt power supply a little bit not too long ago, and 300 is pretty low. You're kind of limited on what power, what kind of components you can power with something like that. 460, you're getting more into the range of being able to. I think the minimum power requirement for a GTX Titan is only 500 watts. Is that right? I think that's right. So you're getting into the realm of, you can power 680 with this. You can power 7970 with this probably. A little bit maybe close to the edge there. But if you have like a 660 Ti or a 670 or something like that, you should be well within range with this particular power supply, and being able to do it without fans if your goal is quiet gaming system, if your goal is a quiet home theater PC that, or a gaming PC that's going to sit down there by your home theater equipment, this is this is the kind of stuff you want to look at. Lee did a great job taking this apart and going over all of the testing and that kind of stuff. Let's install. This is apparently very important. They want you to install with the ventilation top cover facing up. Apparently that's because heat rises. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's interesting to keep that in mind. The strength, 0 dBA. So that's about as close to silent as I know that we can get. There are potential weaknesses, not weaknesses listed, but potential weaknesses. The fanless operation does require, airflow in the case. You can't have a completely stagnant PC design in that way.
And you don't want to wrap it in saran wrap?
Right. That would keep all the noise inside, but also all of the component
and the magic
heat.
smoke that would soon want to be escaping.
Or the fire.
Yeah. 80 plus fanless or 80 plus platinum efficiency plus fanless equals relatively expensive. This is $140, 460 watt power supply, so it is a little steep for that kind of wattage range. But if you want fanless, you're going to pay for it.
And guess what you
yes.
can't do
What?
with this
What?
power
What can
supply?
I do? Not.
Run a water-cooled system?
Arc weld.
That too?
Take off, mark that off of your bingo sheet. But I consider that to be a little bit of a cheating one because he tried really hard. He tried really hard for that one.
Hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another
It's
review.
all of the delivery, and I'm off tonight. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. No, we all have nights like that, and I can tell just by looking at you that it's going to be one of those nights. Another review that I posted up this week is of the Sony VAIO Tap 20 all-in-one touchscreen computer and tablet, and that is not a typo. It is, I consider, both a touchscreen and a tablet because it is a 20-inch PC all-in-one, Ivy Bridge based. You can see here his profile right there. But it is also a tablet because it has a battery. It is a touchscreen, battery-operated PC. Battery life, less than 2 hours. Look at that StarCraft 2 sweatshirt. Is that nice? Straight from BlizzCon, everybody. So I don't know why I was so. We have a video of it as well as the photos and that kind of stuff. Where's I looking for here? It doesn't matter. I'll see it better in the photos. I like the stand on the back of it. They call it a multi-position stand or something like that, or an infinite position stand, because it can go all the way from nearly straight up. I think this shot right here is about as vertical as it gets, and then anywhere in between, all the way down to completely flat, like is in this photo here. So in theory, if you had an application that could use multiple users, you can lay it flat, set on opposite sides of a TV, or of a table, and kind of work on it that way. It has NFC. I'm not exactly sure the use cases for that. Maybe in the future when it becomes more integrated into other devices like phones and that kind of stuff, maybe you could download
You could take it to Taco Bell with you. Put it over there.
Take it
Here's your money.
Take it to the grocery store. I'd like to use the tap and pay button. And it only weighs like 11.5 pounds, almost 12 pounds. So I think that's carryable with you for that type of purpose. It does have an SD card reader, and of course it's a Sony device that has memory stick support, 2 USB 3.0 ports, audio, headphones. Looking at upgradability, you can access the 2.5-inch hard drive bay, and you can access the memory bay. Our system only had 4 gigs of memory, so there is a whole nother slot there if we wanted to add to it, which is something I might do for our own use models. It does come with keyboard and mouse. The mouse particularly feels very cheap. It's very light. But it's a touchscreen. In theory, you won't be using the mouse really that often. Performance, it is essentially an Ultrabook inside this device. It's a Core i5 3317. Yes, 3317U. So it outperforms the NUC, which is also kind of ultra low voltage Ivy Bridge based design, and it performs very similarly to our Ultrabook platform, based on the same processor and that kind of stuff. Now, keep in mind that this metric shows you a Sandy Bridge Core i3 2105. It's not going to live up. It's not even going to live up to that performance metric. So it is still a notebook processor and hardware. using it, you could kind of tell, like booting wasn't as fast and loading up some of the apps weren't as fast, especially since we're using a 750 gig standard hard drive, 5400 RPM hard drive, as opposed to an SSD. You can definitely feel some differences there. But performance-wise, it's going to be good. It's not going to be great. But for, I think, the use cases and positioning of this particular device, it's right on par of where you would like to find it. It does have a notebook battery in it, just under 2 hours of usage, an hour and 54 minutes to be exact, in our Wi-Fi testing. And pricing starts at $879, a little bit steep, a little bit on the high side for the hardware you're getting, maybe, but you are getting a 20-inch screen. It's a 1600 by 900 resolution. It's IPS. It's a decent screen. It's actually pretty good, and they talked that up because of the potential for multiple users to use, to take advantage of this at the same time. If you had it on the table, if the viewing angles were really bad, that would hold back that whole user experience there. So it's an interesting little device. Maybe not that little, but it's an interesting device. We're looking at, my wife liked it right away. This is the kind of computer that we want to keep in like the kitchen type of thing, that would be good for cooking or showing somebody a YouTube video, or looking up recipes, checking your calendar, that maybe you share between a couple of people and that kind of stuff. It's that kind of PC. We've often heard about the kitchen PC and talking about it, and what this is perfect for that, because it is touchscreen. You don't have to have a keyboard and mouse sitting on the counter the whole time, and it's kind of nice that if you want to take it to the living room or the family room and set it on the coffee table to look at something or watch a video or do something while you're watching TV or whatever, you can absolutely do that. So.
But it doesn't have the AMD Wave, so when your hands are covered with flour.
Wait, does it do that? I think it does. I think it does have that capability, but it doesn't work very well. None of that stuff works very well. But yeah, I think that exact purpose was brought up. It's like, if you're cooking and your hands are dirty, you can just wave and move back across the screen. It's like nobody wants to do that. I have one of those faucets in my kitchen that's was supposed to have, you could just touch it to turn it on, right? Have you seen those advertised? Uh-huh. The problem with that is they take batteries, and it goes through C batteries really, really quickly. So
faster than Ken goes through C batteries and Astroglide.
Ken says those are D cells.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. For that thing?
I told her to buy rechargeables, but nobody listens to me.
I know.
All right, let's talk about a review that Allyn posted up this week. This is the ioSafe into disaster-proof NAS device.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Is that the whole review?
Yeah, that's it. Good stuff.
All right, moving on. Wait. Oh.
No, so it was, mid last year we looked at the ioSafe Solo Pro, which was a USB-connected device. And we also looked at the Synology, let's see, that was a DiskStation 412 Plus, I believe. And they sent along that DiskStation along with the ioSafe for the purpose of the review, because an ioSafe by itself can't really be connected to a network directly. So they were like, hey, here's a good thing to pair it up with if you want to see how it would behave in a network environment. And we did that review, performed well. Obviously, the ioSafe performed better when it was directly connected to a PC, because you're trying to go through a NAS device, and there's all this extra overhead and going across a USB link and then going across the network and everything. So we thought it would be kind of cool at the time, and I actually wrote in that original review, hey, wouldn't it be sweet if these two devices were together and and just sort of merged into one unit, because it would be really kind of a cool thing, have a not only fireproof, but the disadvantage of the ioSafe.
Yeah, but that was verboten according to the Old Testament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they just couldn't be together.
So
damn it, I'm falling flat. Dying over here. Dying.
So what was cool was, after I did that review, their PR guy emailed me and he's like, hey, don't tell anybody yet, but we're working on something just like what you were talking about. And I was like, sweet. And then here it is. So we released it. And that is the N2. They basically took the guts of not the 412 Plus DiskStation, but the 413, which is actually a bit faster, has a faster CPU, performs better. And they worked that in to the fireproof enclosure. Now, the PCB for the disk station itself is not inside the fireproof housing. All that is it's basically an aluminum shell that's watertight inside of their fireproof housing, and that aluminum shell houses 2 hot swappable hard drives. So there's a removable watertight cover on the plastic part. So there's basically a couple of screws come off, and you take the fireproof plug, sort of like a really thick door, out, and then there's one screw, you take that out, and you get this water-resistant door off of it. And you can do this all while the unit's running. These are just screws up front. They don't have anything to do with unplugging the unit or anything. And then it's 1 screw per hard drive, and it's a hot swap rated, serial ATA interface back there. So you can basically just pull the failed drive as the unit's running. Same exact, method as if it was just a regular old disk station, except surrounded by much, more protection, like fireproof shell that's rated for, 1,550 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. It can sustain that on the outside.
Which, once again, you didn't test.
No, we didn't test because they actually want me to send this one back, unfortunately.
Bull crap.
How hot did the hard drives get in there?
They didn't really get that hot. I had it running right before I disassembled it because I did the benchmarks first, and then I tore it down.
It's a good idea.
And they just seemed, felt the same that they would pulling out of any other kind of device. There are actually, since it sits in an aluminum enclosure, and there's vent slots in the fireproof shell, and the fan draws the air basically across the heatsink fins of the outer part of the aluminum shell that the drives sit in. And the drives sit right up against the edges of that aluminum shell. So it's basically just conduction heat transfer right to a large heatsink. Probably gets better cooling than it would if the hard drives are just sitting, in just like a typical little desktop aluminum enclosure that does not have a fan blowing air right across it.
Okay, but if heat can't get in very well, how is the heat getting out even better?
There's actually slots that are wide enough to allow air to go across.
Marked one way?
Well, they're not marked one way. Here's the
apparently.
idea. If there's a fire, then it turns the fan off, or the fan melts. And
Right.
and then there's no more airflow going across there, right? So,
See, this is the kind of question I think needs to be addressed. Do we actually believe them that if I catch this crap on fire, I will save Ken's porn collection?
well, okay, so here's what could back that up without actually doing this test. When you buy this, part of the purchase is insurance that they have to cover. So if
They're going to go
can't-
download it all again for him?
I don't know. I guess they would have to. If it all went away, they would have to dump all this money. They actually, from the sounds of it, they've shifted some of the recovery process to in-house. Probably because the assumption is that the hard drives you can read just fine. It's just a matter of interfacing them with something that can read them. So in this case, if you did have stuff that was private and you didn't want to send the drives back necessarily, then what I would do if I was in that situation is I would buy the bare bones one that does not have the insurance, right? Because if you're just, you have stuff on this that you're just not going to send it anywhere. Say it was actually sensitive data that you had on there and you don't want anybody else looking at it. I would buy the one that's without disks. I would provide my own, install my own after it arrived. Install the disk station software on it. It comes with the CD to do that if you have it, with no drives at all and you're starting from scratch. And then if there was a failure, the worst you're out is you would just need to buy another. You wouldn't necessarily need to buy another ioSafe to access the data if you had some kind of issue not being able to mount the Linux partition that it makes.
Mm-hmm.
If you had another disk station, just a Synology disk station, in theory, it's the same exact software loadout. It all works the same. There's no ioSafe specific build here. You should just be able to take those disks out of the ioSafe and drop them right into, a disk station, and it should fire right back up as if there was, as if it was never down.
Okay, how much is this fireproof porn going to cost me, though?
The model that has no drives with it is $600, which is actually pretty cheap because a disk station is like $400, $500-ish for an equivalent unit that's just made out of plastic. that is definitely going to melt in a fire.
Yeah, that's
right?
not good.
So you're really only paying like an extra couple $100 here to get, you know, a pretty disaster-proof enclosure with the same exact kind of a unit on the inside. And then the prices they skyrocket big time from there. It depends on how much insurance you want to add, what kind of drives you want to use. I was toying around on their buy it page, and you can get it up to like $2,600 if you put 8 terabytes worth of like enterprise class drives in there, insured for like 5 years or something like that. So
I wonder if you work in a slightly more dangerous environment, if they maybe double check those insurance rates. If you work in a standard office complex, like as opposed to say, I don't know, a steel factory.
Mill?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I read through it. It seems more like just a no questions asked thing. Like if you're willing to pay that money, that's it.
I live right on the edge of Mount Etna.
No, so yeah, and we did completely tear this thing down. I disassembled it all the way, took the fireproof blocks out of it, and took the PCB out, everything. And build quality was really top notch. Reminded me of like Drobo build quality, actually. Everything fit and finished real nice. All the stuff on the inside, it's like they paid attention to the quality of the stuff that the average person's never going to see. No one's going to tear this thing down. But it's just very, very nicely put together.
All right. So if that's something you worry about, live in an earthquake zone, maybe a flooding zone, fire zone, maybe
Just really low
Fire zone. There's wildfires.
the danger zone. Ken says if you live in the danger zone, then you should look up the ioSafe 2. All right, let's take a quick break here before we jump into our news items and thank today's mystery podcast sponsor.
The all-new Z77 M-Power mainboard from MSI is poised to change the overclocking game. Every Z77 M-Power board will have a factory 24-hour military-class burn-in test completed before shipping. Additionally, performance-optimized features such as Go-To BIOS, Multi-BIOS 2, V-checkpoints, Bluetooth 3.0, and onboard Wi-Fi allow users convenience and total system control over their overclocking and gaming experience. This is the new endurance champion, Z77 M-Power from MSI.
Are you surprised? Mystery? Huh?
Did you have an itinerary for him yet?
I do not. Not yet. We'll talk. It'll be soon. So yes, we thank MSI for their support of the PC Perspective podcast. That they allow us they allow us to continue to bring educational entertainment, edutainment to the masses on PC hardware. I don't know. I don't want to really get into which side we kind of lean towards more. Depends on what kind of mood Josh is in that day, I guess.
Right.
Let's get into some news items. We have another new writer, not on the show, who is joining the PC Perspective staff, Matt Raymond, who...
Also known as Benchmark Monkey.
No. Wrong Matt.
Oh, it's the other Matt.
No. That Matt has been here for a while. This is a new Matt, and this is we got to worry because this person is friends with Josh.
Graduated from high school with me. Actually, he was a year older. But he actually went to journalism school.
So he's going to make us all look really bad. So he's going to start covering some like mobile technology for us again. And he wrote up a news post on I just wanted to feature this so we can get his name out and let everybody know that this kind of stuff is coming. Mobile World Congress was last week. Yeah, it's been over for a little while. But just to test things out, he wrote about the ASUS PadFone Infinity. Not the phone pad, but the pad phone. I hope everybody's got that right. This is the pad phone. This is the phone that turns into a tablet. So it is we've seen these before. Apparently did they say this is the third or the fourth one? Ken, I think it's the third generation of the PadFone. It's a 5-inch LTE phone powered by Qualcomm's 1.6 gigahertz Snapdragon 600 quad-core processor, 2 gigs of RAM, and the Adreno 320 GPU that can crank out 1080p video. 64 gigs of onboard storage, and 50 gigs of ASUS web storage for 2 years. It will have Android 4.2, but the cool thing about it is that it comes with a dock, essentially. Oh, maybe it doesn't come with it, Ken says, but it is an accessory. Let's go with that. I don't know if this is a combined product.
Is it an accessory when it's larger than the actual device?
Well, I guess. The phone can't be an accessory, so we've got to go with the other part as the accessory. So this is a 10.1-inch screen, 1920 by 1080. It has a 441 ppi, which is higher than the iPhone 5's Retinas display. Well, that's actually on the display of the phone itself.
Yeah, the 5-inch
Gotcha.
on the phone.
Gotcha.
You know, if you just would take the phone by itself,
yeah,
that pretty much matches the specifications of any other high-end phone out there now. In fact, it probably is a little bit better. I mean, how many 5-inch 1080 screens are there at the moment?
The unfortunate part is it doesn't look like it's going to come out in the U.S. I don't think any of the previous iterations have. So they've announced April in Taiwan, quote, selected other countries in early Q2, and a hefty price tag of $1,300. So I'm going to guess that's a combined product then. That is going to get you both the phone itself and the tablet accessory. So it looks nice. Looks kind of like an iPhone, but I guess most phones these days do. I would love to see these types of maybe not carrier subsidized phones in the US, but I don't know how likely it is to see that. So let's switch from brand new technology and let's talk about PATA drives. I think this is an important discussion that we need to have, Allyn.
Although you skipped the review, but we can come back to that one.
I did what?
You skipped one. But we'll roll back on it.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about
you're right.
new
drives.
PATA drives.
So I think they're a bit late on this.
No, it says new right in this subject.
No. I know, but this would have been more appropriate like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And actually, here's the thing. So first of all, for the listeners that may not be looking at show notes yet or whatnot, it's Apacer is a company that makes some solid-state drives, and they're making 2.5-inch and 1.8-inch zero insertion force style PATA SSDs. So this is kind of handy in case you have
ATA.
Yeah, parallel ATA, as in like
ATA
a ribbon cable.
133 max,
Yeah,
if you're lucky.
yeah, 133 meg.
A
second.
bit.
No, it was megabytes.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the hard drives never went that fast.
Oh, okay.
That was the issue, at least back then, right? Because the interface was so old. All right, so they're making these things. Yes, that's good if you have an old embedded style system or something that just is stuck in the past with an old parallel ATA hard drive. But here's the thing. There were companies like ADATA and a couple of other ones that, even when ADATA was obscure name that not a lot of people knew yet, there was them and there was a couple of others that were making parallel ATA drives as well, but they just never like sold. So they just discontinued them.
What performance disadvantages do you get on PATA versus SATA? Like, do you get any of here's what I mean. Do you get the fast access time benefits of an SSD?
Yes.
When it's PATA? Okay.
Yes, but I'll qualify that with a but, because I don't believe the PATA standard in most cases supports command queuing. And command queuing is what makes a drive actually really start to take off when you hit it with a bunch of I/O.
Yeah.
So you'll still get fast access time, but you won't get, if you really hit it with a lot of I/O, which I doubt any of these old systems are going to do, really, right? They're just going to, they're just going to be like single-threaded whatever kind of systems here. They're not going to be doing a lot of demanding stuff on the storage. So yeah, they would definitely scream and go really fast compared to what hard disks get replaced, and they would definitely be more rugged.
Yeah, their 4.2 gigabyte ATA 100 drive that they're sliding out, it might be a little faster.
Oh, yeah. Should be. And but they do even state right in their thing that they're aiming it towards commercial and industrial. So it's obvious that's what this
Sure.
is.
It says industrial right there on the picture. See, industrial
Well, yeah.
SSD.
So it's really bad music, right?
And it's probably going to be very pricey.
Hey,
And
now.
I'm pretty sure that it's going to be some form of a serial ATA based SSD inside there that just has a bridge chip. I really think that's all they're going to be doing with it.
Josh, how many
Yeah, 'cause
parallel?
How many PATA based SSD controllers do you know of?
Yeah.
The original
The first
Samsung ultra portable notebook SSD.
Those were
I only know that because
awesome.
I actually bought one
Wow.
way back when, before my
Sucker.
before the X25M, and before the other one that's out of reach right
Oh,
now. 'cause
no.
it's plugged in the test bed.
Oh,
Oh no,
Oh no!
out of reach.
beats them.
So when are they going to come out with the MFM SATA drive for Josh's computer?
Yeah, exactly right.
How many? Does anybody have any PATA drives running? I know, Jeremy, you may, being in the line of work you are.
At work, yeah, there are still some systems running PATA drives.
IDE, maybe?
Yeah.
Nice. I miss IDE cables.
Let's see.
Miss IDE cables.
I know
don't
they're
even
so
think I
thick,
have-
hard to bend.
Oh, here we go.
Restrict airflow.
You can mark
Didn't
off
we have
the
this
bingo.
discussion about who would actually strip down
You can mark off the bingo
cables to
square
make
for me.
them into tiny little circles as opposed to the ribbon?
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Most of us did.
Because we had this conversation where I talked about Ken, and he had no idea what that was.
I've done that.
No, you've never touched an IDE drive. You don't even know what that is.
You don't
the
even
really
know the
snazzy ones were
master-slave
lit.
relationship and which goes on the end of the whip.
Oh, that was such a pain in the ass. That was such a pain in the ass. Let's talk about another.
Isn't the whip wrong then?
So, in other storage news, we have a handful of these stories. Seagate will cease production of 7,200 RPM notebook hard drives later this year. Now,
I have a few theories on this one.
okay, I'm curious because it's obvious because of the move towards hybrid hard drives, I guess. And
Sure, that's part of it.
the 5,400 RPMs aren't that much slower. What are your theory?
No, they're slower. Don't get me wrong there. And
Okay,
the seek
alright,
times
well-
are definitely slower.
All right.
But the sequential throughput is still on par because they're going to higher platter densities all the time. So you're getting to a point where, now don't get me wrong, these drives are not really saturating the interface with like serial ATA 6 gigabit and whatnot, but they're still going pretty darn fast. You still get like 100 meg per second out of these things, even at the 5,400 RPM spindle speed. So there's that. You're trying to cram these things into smaller and smaller notebooks where cooling is more and more of a factor. So 7,200 RPM really is hell on, the hard drive, the components, the head, all that stuff in there. So it reduces reliability when you're at that higher speed with insufficient cooling, which is what most of these drives are seeing. So it doesn't really surprise me to see just someone take a stand and go, okay, look, these really tiny drives, really high density platter, sorry, we're just not going to spin the thing that fast. There's just no need to make that much heat compared to, what else is going on, especially coming from Seagate, who, as you said, also pushes the hybrid drive storage tech.
Yeah.
Because they're one of the few that have laptop-sized, integrated, hybrid solution like that.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like this is somebody in the comments chatted. Somebody in the chat commented that that they were surprised that the new iMacs lower end models came with 5,400 RPM hard drives, and I agree that seems kind of out of place. I mean, I'm sitting next to an M17X, and that's got two 7,200 RPM hard drives in it. Obviously, it's a bigger, louder, better cooling based machine, but
I'll tell you exactly why the Macs are doing it.
Please.
They are just forcing people to go the SSD route or the Fusion route. Think about it. It's like a win-win. They make their models a little bit slower on access speed, and then that makes people see that much more of a difference between that and the SSD, so they're going to spend the extra couple $100 to get the Fusion-based thing, which is still going to have a 5,400 RPM drive, but you just really won't notice it because of the hybrid technology at work.
All right, let's shift from storage for just a second and talk about, I think if any podcast that exists that really knows urban lifestyles, it's probably the five of us on this show. And I think we are the ones to take a look at and really discuss the Thermaltake Urban S21 mid-tower chassis because of it, right? Anybody have any thoughts on this? Morry, I know you are often looking at cases and cooling and that kind of stuff. Is anything in this particular case or design stand out to you?
Hey, before we get to this, can I go get my GAT?
Yeah, please. If we're gonna make, we gotta. I think that's I think that's what this case invites towards me is something like that. I don't know. I just don't understand the naming convention at all. Anyway, somebody else that has some thoughts on the chassis, maybe.
I don't know, Ryan. I mean, the case is pretty looking, but it's pretty looking like an Apple's pretty looking. I personally don't like little cases. The only little case that recently has come up that I really like is that Kickstarter case. That one looks really cool. This one, I mean, it looks about a little smaller than that case that I had reviewed about a month ago. What was it, the Revo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it seems like if you want to build a computer just to have enough room to put stuff in, but not really a lot of expandability, that's maybe a decent case. It'll look nice, but you want to do water cooling, you want to just do a lot of crazy things and need a lot of room. That's not going to be the case for you. I mean, it looks like it has a nice powder coat. Thermaltake recently has really stepped up their game with their powder coating, scratch resistance and all that stuff.
Right.
But it just doesn't look like a really big case. And that the front panel is kind of odd too. I mean, I generally don't like having something blocking my drives.
Yeah. I'm curious, like this front panel is a brushed metal design. I wonder if it's actually metal or if it's a plastic on it. They didn't mention pricing on it either. Where are the other specs here?
It looks like brushed anodized aluminum that's just like a sheet over, like laminated onto a plastic back.
Yep.
Yeah. So maximum of 520 millimeter fans. It does feature toolless drive bays, up to 6 hard drives, 3 optical drives, has cable management holes, water cooling grommets, bottom mounted power supply, and a CPU cutout. So kind of the standard feature set that you're used to seeing on cases these days. And it looks like it has, I don't know, maybe decent airflow. We'll see. We will probably get one of these in. It almost looks like a slot loading optical drive bay up top, but it's obviously not. It's got the power button right there in the middle of it. So, oh well.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I see the Urban case with the Odyssey lower east side satellite speakers. Because if there's anything we'd know about, it's the lower east side.
The lower east side satellite speakers? Nice.
Yeah, links in the chat there.
Nice.
Because seriously, you're reaching when you're going for that.
Let's see. What do we got here?
I'm not saying they look bad, but the name is just...
Actually, you're right. They don't look bad. I guess I don't know what I envision when I hear the term lower east side.
Well, it comes with a block of government cheese.
All right, how about let's see, what are our other news items left? We've only got a handful. Let's talk about hard drives one more time. Sorry, guys.
Oh, can we please talk about more hard drives?
Let's all double our density with...
wow. There's a corny joke in there somewhere.
I'm waiting for Josh.
No,
yeah,
I'm
Josh,
not saying
what do you
word.
All right, nothing. Okay. So HGST, recently purchased research division at Western Digital, is promising to double the density of powder drives over the next few years.
All right, so what you actually, if you're just listening to the podcast, you probably should look at this article and look at the picture to really get this. And anyone that's looked at a sputter pattern, or if you don't even know what that is, you should Google around for sputter and hard drives, and you'll see some pictures of that. It's just the method that the manufacturers get the magnetic material onto the disk itself, because the entire disk in your hard drive is not a full, the whole thickness of it is not all of the magnetic material. It's actually like a really thin layer on the surface, right? And usually what they do is they're trying to somehow separate that magnetic material instead of it just being a flat sheet, which would just basically just be one big north or south pole, right? You want to separate it so it's into individual magnetic domains somehow. So there's different kinds of chemistry things that they do to try to make these, things have subdivisions to them, right? And the smaller you can go, the better, right? The more, the smaller and
and
more
the better
tightly
you
packed.
can, get your school districts and get your kids into good ones.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So you want something like that to happen. You want a whole
You
bunch
want
of
the
little
nice
ones.
subdivisions, exactly.
Yes. Well, this is just a chemistry thing. It's not like they're going in and doing some kind of lithography, anything like that.
No, they're
Well,
self-assembling.
Well, this method sort of is. They're doing
Yes, sort of.
sort of. There's still chemistry involved, but they sort of seed the process with they're going to lay down. Here's where the tracks are going to be, and then they do something that causes some chemistry related
This
voodoo.
involves some magic wands,
Basically.
wishful thinking.
Nanotubes.
And
your
it
tongue a
causes
certain way
and
as
what
you're
they're doing,
putting
if you look at the
platters
pictures,
in.
they're making very, very distinct magnetic domains in small circular shapes, and each one of those would basically be a bit, roughly. There's a bunch of error correction and everything else thrown in there. So realize, if you look at a magnified CD and you see one little pit or land on a CD, that's not just one bit. There's like more corrective stuff in there. So same goes for this, but still much higher density than you can get with the current techniques. And you're getting very, very fine domains there. And if you relate that with flash memory, those bits are 10 nanometer, which is smaller than they're making flash memory right now. So if they play the cards right and they could really refine this, you could see hard drive tech giving you, per millimeter square area of platters on par or better than flash memory.
So spinning hard drives not dead yet.
Nope, not dead yet.
And this is not even as dense as Hammer. Hammer was actually claiming higher densities than this.
And I saw you linked here to the Salt plus Electron story from 2011. Wow, it was in 2011.
That really was like 2 years ago, huh?
Do we have salted hard drives yet?
No.
Because those guys were, about 5 trillion bits or so?
I
This
think
is
that
only
was like
about
15 or 20
1.2.
nanometers for the domains on that one. And with this, they're hitting 10, but again, who knows how far out they are on.
But
Yeah.
they don't taste
Quality-wise,
nearly
yeah.
as well as the older ones.
Yeah, 3.3 trillion bits per inch
Yeah.
squared.
I'm still sort of cringe
That's
when I
okay.
think of the salted hard drive stuff because, you refer to hard drives jokingly as spinning rust. I don't want them to actually be. You're adding salt to the metal in the hard drive, really? It's like just add water in
How
there.
much iron is on that platter anyways?
Don't use those
No.
hard drives in a very humid environment. Floridians
But they do
need not
work in
apply.
winter.
Yeah,
But for a hard drive, the regular house is a very humid environment.
that's true. Josh, I know we need you to get back on track here, so let's maybe ask you a little bit about the Qualcomm and MSI announcement of the new Killer Z77 motherboard line, new gaming line.
New gaming line, the Dragon gaming line.
It has a
We don't
dragon
have-
head.
We don't have a whole lot of details on
No,
the
we
actual
don't.
products, but we know they're going to have, a Z77. We're assuming they're going to have Z87.
The all
But,
new Z87.
they're more cost optimized, shall we say?
So they
They
have
come with Killer Nick.
right.
Not only that, but it's a smaller Killer Nick chip than the competition. So this is the only time you're going to hear about somebody bragging that they're smaller.
They're smaller and they're cheaper, right? So I agree. None of us have real positive feelings about the Killer networking brand, but it's interesting that Qualcomm bought them because I don't think Qualcomm's stupid, and they're not even usually one to go out on the limb for marketing reasons. So maybe there's something interesting in it. It's not the first; these aren't going to be the first motherboards to have the Killer Nick E20. Is it the E2200? Yeah. They're not the first ones to have it, but they are the first ones to do it for like a modest price. I think in like the $130 to $150 range for these gaming motherboards. Josh,
I wouldn't doubt if the actual network chip itself and the performance that it has rivals that of the best chips out in the industry.
yeah,
But I mean,
Like the
they
Intels.
are more expensive, and I really wish they would have more of the programmable software side that we were originally promised with Killer Nick. Remember a couple of years ago when they had the first ones out with the big old metal K that was the heat sink on the chip, and
7 years ago, Josh.
Pardon?
7 years ago, September 9th, 2006. I just looked it up.
They promised that you could do all kinds of really interesting things. That it was basically
quality of service,
a mini computer.
BitTorrent.
What?
Quality of service stuff. A BitTorrent server run right off of the card.
Yeah.
Being able to break down your stream.
A thin Linux client that masqueraded as the network chip.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting idea, and it's never really amounted to much more than just QoS type stuff. My gaming packets aren't going to be disturbed by my prawn downloading, that kind of stuff. But butter.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
What do you think about the fact that MSI is releasing a new series of Z77 chipset motherboards now?
You mean M-Power just wasn't enough for him?
No, I mean,
new Z77 Dragon.
I think we're pretty close to a new Intel platform, and now they're going to release an entire new lineup of Z77 offerings. Do you read anything into that?
Am I supposed to?
Obviously, leading the horse to water.
Oh.
Ryan, I heard that the Z87 was actually going to be a new socket.
It is.
So they're trying to get. They're probably trying to get the last bit of money they can off the Z77, because we all know that once the 87 comes out, Intel's going to stop shipping the Z77s, and it's going to dry up. And
my theory,
they're actually prying SMDs off of existing motherboards to resell on these new ones.
my kind of theory that I thought Josh shared, but obviously not, was that I've heard some rumblings from other motherboard vendors as well that they may refresh Z77 lines, which would lead me to believe that for the Haswell launch, maybe the allocation of chipsets and processors is going to be relatively low, and that they don't expect to be able to sell. They need to sell X number of motherboards for that quarter, like Q3, and they don't think that Z87 is going to be that big of a seller because there's not going to be that many processors. That happened on Sandy Bridge as well when it launched, where there were lots of motherboards available but no processors available, and all the motherboard guys were pissed.
I think you're kind of correct in there, especially when you see how the PC market has pretty much stagnated and is going in reverse as compared to other areas. And they probably have so many Ivy Bridge chips in their storerooms and warehouses that if they think, hey, if we really push Haswell, all that's just going to be wasted silicon. And why do that when nobody's moving chips at any significant rate?
And somebody posted in the chat a story from Tech Power Up that at a private media unveiling held on sidelines of Seagate, Gigabyte disclosed its next generation flagship motherboard, the Z87XOC. LGA 1150 motherboard. Let's see what makes it special. Nope.
It's called the Dragon Killer.
No, this is Gigabyte.
I know.
I get you. Last sentence. One of the chipset's 4 USB 3.0 ports are wired out as a Type A port on board, letting you install and run your Windows 7.8 installation off of a USB 3.0 flash drive. There you go. Obviously, colors to change because that is awful looking.
Woo!
The blue with the orange and the black? Nah, they wouldn't do that.
Oh, I don't know. They might go with it.
Nah, they're listening to me now. They won't do that.
Alex. No,
Alex.
Gigabyte. Who's Gigabyte?
Colin.
Yeah, it's Colin.
So,
listen to us.
Basically, since when did the Titan come out? February? Something? Since this whole first half of the year is just going to be a slaughterhouse of new products. Graphics cards, chipsets, motherboards, processors. It's going to be awful.
Nobody's buying.
No, well, we'll see.
Hopefully.
Our last news bit is about a quick refresh of, not a quick refresh, but a refresh of the Quadro lineup from NVIDIA using Kepler GPUs. This was written up by Scott just today. The Quadro K5000 has a 1536 CUDA core processor, 4 gigs of memory with ECC support, and $2,250 price tag. Most people will recognize that GPU as almost the same GPU as in the GTX 680. And what I didn't see in the presentation, I don't see any of that kind of information in this post necessarily, was that they didn't really talk about double precision performance, which means I don't think this is a rehash of the GK104 that we already know. I don't think this is going to be a big double precision compute power upgrade for anything. You're gonna want GK110 based products for that, it looks like. Although I tell you, I'm curious. When they launched Titan, it's $1,000, which seems like a lot of money, but when you compare that to the Quadro K5000 here, it's $2,250. The Titan looks like it would have a lot more performance, single precision, double precision, at less than half the cost. It does not have ECC memory, so
But could you pair that with one of the actual HPC cards from NVIDIA? Because as I understand, these are actually designed to be paired with them.
I don't know.
So
Well,
the
not only that,
Quadro
I
is going to
think
handle
the
your
biggest
graphics
thing with
stuff. But for
Quadros-
sorry, Josh?
The biggest thing with Quadros is really the software support
Sure.
for when you're doing heavy duty CAD CAM stuff and color rendering with any kind of just desktop graphics card. When you're getting into the bit levels that they're looking at, it doesn't support that higher, from what I understand. And so you're going to get errors and whatnot with the regular desktop cards that you're not going to see with the Quadros, just because of the software and the drivers that they're using to expose the higher, the output bit levels. I cannot remember exactly, but there is a reason why, and it's for the professional stuff. It's the big AutoCAD, CAD/CAM stuff, and 3D visualization that does require more precision in terms of output than what desktop cards currently give.
Yeah, and as Scott points out in the chat that they are designed, quote, designed to handle graphically intensive applications. They're designed to be paired with GK110-based Tesla K20 cards to offload the GPU muscle. So, so their solution is to buy both. Why not both? Which I guess makes sense to NVIDIA. So if you're into the Quadro stuff, there's everything from the 192 core version for $200 up to the 1536 core version for $2,250. I guess that's it for the news. Like I said, it was a little bit of a light week on the hardware side, but let's get into our picks of the week. Mine is a product we just got in today. We're looking forward to opening up. It's literally still sealed on the packaging. This is as the lighting adjusts on the camera, AMD Mini-PC, which is actually built by Sapphire, I'm guessing, based on the stickers I see on the side. Mm-hmm. This is a A8 4555M powered Trinity. That's a Trinity-based part, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
1.6 gigahertz quad core, 4 gigs of memory on board, mini DisplayPort output, HDMI output, an integrated 2.5-inch 500 gig hard drive, 2 USB 3 ports, pre-installed with FreeDOS.
FreeDOS!
So, but it is Windows 7 and Windows 8 compatible. And this is one of those mini PCs. I don't know if you can kind of see it here. I just haven't opened it up yet. But being powered by Trinity should be better than the previous ones we saw that were powered by AMD C-Series parts or Intel's Atom-based parts. I think this one might actually be capable of doing all of the kind of the home theater PCE-ish type stuff that you want to do. So, and I also find it's interesting. I need to clarify this, but it's got all the branding. It's got all the stickers on it. I think this is going to be sold this is pretty much branded as an AMD product, right? the AMD Mini-PC. And I guess, it's kind of like the Intel NUC, right? Only this is going to be significantly cheaper, and it's not a bare bones. It does ship with, hard drive and memory and all that kind of stuff installed, so it's ready to boot up, pre-installed with FreeDOS for all those FreeDOS users out there still. But we'll test that in the next week or so. Jeremy, what do you got?
Space Hulk. But that's actually not my pick. If you know what it is, you're excited. If you don't, you don't care. But I've been digging around in some older games, and one of the ones I just played was Special Ops: The Line. Mediocre cover-based shooter, but the story was like, there was a plot, depth, character development. I was amazed. But the problem was EyeFinity didn't work. Did a bit of digging around, and I found a little program they've got called Flawless Widescreen. It's not new. Many people have probably already run into it. But for a lot of the older titles, and some newer ones, it will allow, for instance, a workaround with the Unreal Engine to get perfect EyeFinity going. For some other older titles that frankly just did not support it, and with INI hacks sort of supported it, these pretty much, you fire that up, then you fire up the executable of your game, and away you go, just happily on EyeFinity.
That's pretty
sort
cool.
of spent me a lot of time, or saved me a lot of time digging around INI files trying to figure out how to get it to work.
I could have used that with Skyrim today.
Yeah. If you're trying to do an EyeFinity run and it just is not going to work for you, check out this, check out their compatibility list, and hey, it may well save you from doing the frustration of troubleshooting INI files, which are always fun.
All right, Josh, you're up next.
Why in the hell did Oblivion work so much better in EyeFinity than Skyrim?
I just
don't understand what the hell Bethesda was thinking.
Developer relations. Developers.
It's a good motherboard for cheap. You get an extra 10% off.
Are you going to tell us what it is first?
It's the ASUS shaving cream. Give me a second.
M5, 897, R2, AM3, AMD 970, SATA 6, and so on.
Yeah, okay, basically it's an AMD 970 board. From ASUS, it's the M5A97 Revision 2. It's an AM3 Plus board. It's going to be $85 once you get everything done with that little promo code.
Can somebody explain to me why you put a promo code under the description? Why not just
put it
lower
in there?
The price?
Because there are people who just overlook it and don't know how. So they're getting an extra $9.50.
Oh, that's aggravating.
No, it's Newegg. Go figure. Still, some people like putting in their own codes. Makes them feel complete.
That's kind of weird, but all right.
It's probably the same psychological thing as pricing something at $9.99 as opposed to $10. Saving that 1 cent doesn't really matter, but it gives somebody a feeling that they're winning.
Oh, come on, move into the new millennium, dump the penny like we did.
That's why, if you ever notice, I always round that crap up in my pricing and the reviews. Always.
I round down just to piss people off. I go $3.99 instead of $400 and not $399.99. So, all right. Next up on the list, Allyn.
All right. So my pick is if you want to live a little dangerously, you might get some cool new features that are in Chrome. I read a news post about this at some point, but there's different builds of Chrome. There's like the stable release that everybody has if you just go to download it. Then there's a beta if you want to get the beta. And then the one that Ken just clicked on there, or Ryan just clicked on, is like the super bleeding edge, oh my god one, which is actually even a step beyond the dev channel or Canary builds.
Yeah.
Canary is the pretty bleeding edge to the point where it installs alongside your regular Chrome install.
Okay.
Not meant to like interfere with it, because it's
I prefer
so
that,
unstable
actually.
yeah, exactly. But if you do the dev channel one, it's sort of stable enough. Like if you're sort of willing to deal with beta-ish, sort of alpha-ish level stuff, to tinker with some new features. So here's the cool new feature. They have volume indicators on all the tabs.
I do like that. Yeah.
When you reopen Chrome and you had 3 tabs that were playing something before and those things ended and you forgot about them, and then it comes back and you're scrambling to lower your volume because 10 different things started playing all at once. At least now you can look at the tabs and go, okay, which ones are playing? All right, and then you can just handle it instead of just blindly, trying to go through every single tab.
Damn X10 commercials.
Basically, yeah,
Yes.
those are annoying too.
All right.
So
Morry,
it's still in testing, and if you're patient for, I don't know, however long it takes them to roll this into the stable release, but you will be getting this feature at some point.
there is a Chrome add-on Ken says that used to do that, or he can do that, that he uses to do
There
that.
is, but it's like really, really sketchy on what it works with.
I like newer things, but I also have a problem with stability issues, so we'll see.
We know.
Thanks. Not with the magic of editing, you don't know.
With raids, he has stability issues.
Morry, you're new to the podcast, but let's hear what you brought for us for a pick of the week.
Well, I got a new water cooling toy. I have an it's a
XSPC.
XSPC, sorry.
That's
RX360. It's a double or triple width tri 120 radiator. Here's the radiator thickness. So I'm going to try to do this. Let's see. And then here's a fan, so you can just see how thick the thing is. It's a really good deal. It's pretty thick.
All right.
It's
That is
got
like a
decent.
triple
So let me
radiator.
get this straight. It's a little thick, right?
Yeah.
Thicker than normal. Okay.
I'm going to. That's going to go into a new build in my computer eventually. Once I'm working on a motherboard upgrade and a bunch of other things for QuakeCon eventually. But
Nice.
and it'll actually be. I'm working on a water cooling radiator shootout review that will be featured in there as well. I'm still working out some kinks with that though. I picked that up at Micro Center it was about $90, pretty decent for a radiator of that size. With radiators, usually fin density and actual thickness of the radiator contribute to its cooling ability. So that should be a fairly decent performer. Basically,
Nice.
it's you want
It's thick.
yeah you want it thick because you want the water to stay in there and flow through there as it cools down. The longer the water stays in there and the more that goes through, the cooler it gets. So
Yeah.
I do have another pick. Oh, sorry. Does someone have a question?
Nope. Go ahead.
No, I'm just
Okay.
being attacked by a cat.
I do
Is
have
that
another
cat
pick.
pick?
Something that I want Josh to see if he can figure out what this
Identify.
is. What does that
That's,
look like, Josh? Can
Oh
you
my
see that?
gosh! It's one of the phase change Freon units.
Yes, that is a Vapor Chill Classic. Well, that I kind of mangled a bit. I did some bending of the tubes and all to fit in a case. That's really old mod, but yeah, I have a couple of those sitting in my closet too.
Yeah, Josh. What do you got now?
Come out of the closet, phase change cooler.
All right, well that's cool. I don't have as much experience with the custom water cooling stuff that I need to, so I'm glad to have Morry with us, who has a lot of experience with that. Maybe we'll do something on that system when we go to QuakeCon, which dates have been announced. First weekend in August. Not a surprise, everybody says. So we will probably be there again, pending the end of the world and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to wrap up the show for us this week. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you're watching the live stream, sorry for the little hiccup we had. If you're not on the live stream, there was no hiccup. Think about it.
The magic of editing.
If you want to watch us record the show live, it's at pcper.com/live. Record Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, pcper.com/podcast is the URL you should give to your friends and post and spam across all the forums and news groups. News groups? People still use those? Yeah, those are still
They're
things.
still around.
Post that URL around all over the place so that we can bring more people into the community and they can learn while they laugh with the PC Perspective podcast. Can we make that the new slogan? Are you guys cool with that? Learn while you laugh with the PC Perspective podcast.
And cry.
Either that or Morry will take you down to negative 40C or F.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan Trout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
Now Morry Titleman.
See you next week, guys.